Hello and welcome to our second video in your mini course, Becoming Fulfilled and Satisfied in Your Life. Today we are going to expand on the work that you did in the last video with your beliefs, and we're going to start looking at your opportunities. Now, the ultimate goal is to be able to recognize opportunities that are happening all around you each day, kind of changing your experience of your life and your situations and your experiences in your life. But to do that, we're first going to need to take a little bit of a step back and look at some of the things from your past, going hand in hand with the beliefs work that you did in our last video, looking at some of your past experiences and the belief that that brought up for you. So we're going to start off by looking at what was once looked at as a negative experience, something that was difficult for you to go through. Now, it's really important here before you do this work that you understand that I'm not asking you to dive deep into some really, really difficult work here. You don't need to relive all of your past experiences here. For example, I am a survivor of 10 years of child abuse from the age of 2 to 12. Now, for me to do this work, I do not need to actually go through and remember very specific instances. I could just kind of categorize that whole 10-year experience as abuse. Right? So I can remember that that was a very negative and very difficult time for me without having to actually go into the nitty-gritty and relive any of it. Same thing if you went through an experience of being bullied, for example. You don't need to go back and remember what it was like to be bullied. Just use a compartmentalized kind of overarching category of bullying, and you remember that that was a difficult time. Now, also with this, I want to make sure that you are careful not to judge yourself against anyone else and their experiences, because it's all relative, right? When we were 5 years old, if we broke a shoelace when tying our shoes, that was the end of the world. Whereas when we were 15 years old, if a friend stabbed us in the back, that was the end of the world. Right? So depending on where you were at in your life at that particular time, some experiences that you really considered to be quite tragic then, it might be laughable now, but that doesn't negate the fact that they were actually very difficult at that time. They might actually be a really great example for you to use in this, and you'll see what I mean in a moment. So you're going to open up your workbook for me to the page that says Recognizing Opportunities. And we're going to talk really briefly about life lessons here. Now, everybody has their own belief system for why we're here, what life is all about, right? And does anybody really know the answer? I mean, maybe we'll find out when we die. I don't know. But I know what I believe for myself, and it helps me get up every day. It helps me rationalize my experiences every day, and it helps me cope every single day. So especially with bad things that had happened in my life in the past. So I personally believe in reincarnation, and I personally believe that our souls or our higher self has a real plan for us when we come and reincarnate into this life. Now, we don't have everything completely mapped out because we have the freedom of free will. And so, we can't possibly plan for what our reactions are going to be, if we're going to take people up on opportunities, who we're going to allow into our lives, etc. But what we can plan is an overarching life lesson that we want to learn. And so that's what I'm really wanting to get at the heart of this. Now, for some people, especially if you've not gone through a big hardship like an abusive childhood, for example, you might be having a great difficulty to narrow down your life lesson. I personally believe that those that have gone through a great tragedy like child abuse actually have an upper hand with figuring out their life lesson, and I'll explain that in a moment. So believing that I reincarnated into this life so that I could learn a major life lesson is really key in helping me to cope and understand some of my past experiences. So when I go to fill out this first table here, I'm going to chunk out my experience. So I'm just going to take a broad category of abuse, and I'm going to write that in my experience column. The lesson that I originally learned from my abuse was Number one, I learned the words that my abuser said to me every day, which was that I was stupid, ugly, worthless, useless. Nobody was ever going to love me, and I was never going to amount to anything. That is what I originally learned. And this goes back to the beliefs task from last video. Okay? I strongly and truly believed that was my truth for a long period of time. So that is what I really thought my life lesson was. When I started really coming to terms with this idea of a life lesson and that I would be in charge of what lesson I wanted to learn when I came into this life, I started to realize that that is ridiculous to think that I would want myself to learn that I was stupid, ugly, worthless, and useless. So when I looked at it in that way, I could say a firm no, that was not really my lesson. It didn't necessarily mean that I understood what my ultimate lesson was, but it made it a little bit easier because I could just do the reverse of what the original lesson was. So for me, instead of learning that I was stupid, ugly, worthless, useless, I could say that I've learned that I'm beautiful, that I'm intelligent, and I'm worthwhile and useful. Now, at first, they may have been just words that I put down on a piece of paper and I didn't really believe them. But when I used the beliefs exercise from our last video and actually went through and challenged each of my beliefs, then things started coming together and I started realizing, actually, my real life lesson here has always been for me to find my worth, find my value, learn how to love myself, and really, truly allow myself to have what I truly deserve. So now that you have done the work with your past experience and trying to figure out the life lesson that was there for you, we're going to take it a step further and we're going to have a look at where you are right now in a certain situation. And we're going to see if you are able to be where you are now because of some experiences from your past that perhaps were more difficult or even negative at the time. So these might be the same experiences from the first exercise, or you may choose some different ones. So again, this is in your workbook, and this is the subtitle, What Did You Gain from the Past? So essentially, we want to try to uncover when there was something that was difficult or negative that we experienced, that it actually opened the door for an opportunity for us. It may still have felt very difficult and negative, and that's okay. But the point is to be able to start looking at current experiences that you have that may not be the most positive, that may be very difficult in this moment, and be able to have some hope that there is an opportunity that is laying in front of you, just waiting for you to grasp. So how we're going to do this is we're going to write in the experience, and then we're going to write the opportunity that this gave us. So for example, I am divorced. So I'm remarried, which is absolutely wonderful. I have an amazing husband and amazing stepsons. Now, when I was going through my divorce, of course, to my first husband, very, very difficult experience. So I could put that in my experience list and I would just write the word divorce. I know what that means to me. That was a very negative time. Now, the opportunity, I could actually list several opportunities that have come from that. Knowing the relationship that I was in, knowing the goals that we had as a couple, and the type of person that he was and that I was with him, I can say for certain that I would still be in the same country if I had stayed with him. So I'm from Canada. I now live in the UK. The fact that I now live here is only possible because I am divorced. If I was still with him, there are many, many, many reasons that I hold firm in my heart that I know we would never have left that country. We never would have left our province or even our area that we lived in. So there was a great opportunity for me here in the UK that I was able to take and happened to be able to take because of the divorce. Now, one didn't lead to the other. It wasn't that type of situation. But when I look back on it, I have had the opportunity to move countries because that divorce happened. Now, eventually I ended up marrying my now husband when my stepchildren and have built an amazing life here. And again, obviously that would not have happened if I was still married to the first husband. So without the divorce, the pain that was, the difficulty, the negativity that brought on, without going through all of that, I can very safely say that I wouldn't have these things that I have now, living in the UK with my amazing husband and my two stepsons. So that's the type of thing that I want you to look at. And it doesn't have to be that big or grand. It can be smaller steps. But I want you to look at it. Doesn't negate the fact that that was a difficult experience. We're not trying to change the experience that you had. That's in the past. It's done. It is what it is. We're looking to see if there's any way, shape, or form you could have possibly benefited from that experience. When I look at my abuse, of course I don't wish to repeat that, and I would never wish that on my worst enemy. However, I am actually very grateful of the abuse happening, because the person that I am today, the work that I do today, the clients that I have, and the help that I'm able to offer them all stems from the person I have become because of that experience, right? So it's another example for you to see I can take the most horrible experience and I can find an opportunity in there. So that's your challenge. And the very last column is, are you better for it now? So in most cases, I'm going to assume that's going to be a great big tick or a great big Y for yes, that you are in a better position for whatever that experience was back in the past. Okay? So these experiences you're looking at can be as far back as you want. They can be yesterday, right? 5 minutes ago was in the past, technically. So these experiences have no time limit. Next, we're going to do an activity to help you to actually do this in the present moment with your experiences and situations that you have on a daily basis. So the next page in your workbook is called Breaking Down Daily Events. And I want you to use this to reflect upon your day each day. Now, I've given you 2 spots here, and so you can obviously photocopy this or print it out again or just download it and keep using it. Or you can just use a journal, whichever works for you. But getting into the habit of sitting at the end of your day and reflecting upon the people that came into your day that day, the experiences that you had, the situations you were put into, good or bad or indifferent, and having a look at any of them and all of them. Was there possibly an opportunity there? Now, this works really well, obviously, with the good experiences that you have. Be like, oh my gosh, so-and-so that I haven't seen in ages, I ran into them at the grocery store today and they told me about this lead, and oh yeah, I'm going to call this person. It could be the opportunity that I've been looking for. Sometimes it's really cut and dry and obvious. Most times, though, we have absolutely no idea, especially when it seems like something very random, running into an old mate and you just have a little chit chat and nothing seems to come of it. And also, especially when it is something that is negative, right? You've been put on the spot at work, you didn't have a great experience in a meeting, whatever it was, right? You end up brushing shoulders with somebody that really irritates you, or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's very difficult in those times to actually know what the opportunity is, because the opportunity may not present itself for hours, days, weeks, months, years. We really have no way of knowing, right? We're not psychic. We don't have a crystal ball in front of us. So when you get to those experiences and it really isn't obvious, then you can make it up even. You can start delving into the depths of your mind to come up with something creative and say, maybe that person rubbed me the wrong way, and that's an opportunity for me to check myself to see if I actually have a similar trait to that person that I'd like to work on. Or maybe I really felt quite uncomfortable in the meeting because my boss put me on the spot, which shows me that I actually didn't know about something that I was supposed to know of. So this is an opportunity for me to get my head in the game for this particular job that's happening right now. Maybe it was that your boss put you on the spot and asked you to get up and present something, and you felt really, really uncomfortable. So maybe that's an opportunity for you to realize that, okay, speaking in front of others is not a strong suit. What you choose to do with that might be completely okay. And you might say, it's good that I know this. So now going forward in my career, I can make sure that I am not in a position to have to present. But some of you might find that, you know what, not being able to present could actually really hinder me in my career. So I'm actually now going to go on a mission to try to make myself more comfortable in that area, right? So some of the opportunities do not have to be a great big fat wad of cash landed in my lap, or this fabulous new opportunity for a career is right around the corner. It could be smaller things that actually end up getting you there later. Again, looking at where we're at now and the opportunities that got us here because of an experience perhaps years and years ago, right? My example of divorce allowing me to be in another country on another continent with an amazing husband and stepchildren that I never thought that I would have. Right. So there were a lot of steps that needed to happen in there, and things that I have not talked about yet that, needed to happen in order for me to get there. So same sort of thing here. You realizing that you do not like speaking in front of people because your boss called you out in that meeting. It was a horrible experience. You felt completely unprepared. You can feel that you were completely flushed and everybody was looking at you and giggling, or, whatever it was, terrible experience. But now it's opened your eyes that this is an area that you want to work on. And who knows, 10 years from now, you might be looking at this moment and saying, that was the catalyst that got me into doing better with public speaking and having more confidence that now has allowed me to have the career that I have now. So it's opening you up to the possibility. And when you are open to the possibility of opportunities being there, you start to experience your experiences differently. You start to be more open to accept opportunities, which means that if it looks anywhere close to an opportunity, you're more likely to grab it. Now I'd like to introduce you to a classic coaching technique called the Wheel of Life. Now, coaches all over the world use this particular technique to help you get really clear on the areas of your life that you feel need improvement, but then more than that, to actually take you beyond that so that you can come up with some serious action plans in order to get closer to what your ideal is. So this is really at the heart of what we want to do so that you feel like you have a very fulfilled and satisfied life. So in your workbook, you are going to see that right below our work about opportunities is going to be the Wheel of Life. So I'm going to share my screen with you here so that you can have a look. All right, and so what you see here is our Wheel of Life in full. I'm just going to move this over for you. Okay. So for our Wheel of Life, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 categories here. Now, the Wheel of Life that you have is actually 6 categories. So it looks slightly different from this, but that's all right. We're going to work with it anyways. Now, I've got up these 8 different things that I just pulled this off of the internet. So this is just something that somebody else had done. Now, you might find that you have very similar categories. And in the workbook, I do walk you through the fact that, you might have these broad range: career, finance, personal growth, health, family, spirituality, social life, attitude. You can have anything in here. But for some of you, I gave the example in the workbook about health. And for some of you that where health is actually a very important aspect of your life, you might choose to actually fill a few of these with different types of health. So for example, a lot of people might feel like they have really great mental, emotional health. They've got really great well-being as far as their spirituality is concerned, but they're not physically fit as they would like, or maybe their diet is not as healthy as they would like. So rather than having one category of health that would actually be quite confusing to rate, they would choose to separate those out. So they could have spirituality as one, they can have physical fitness as another, and then they can have eating well or a healthy diet or something along those lines as a third. So this is all relative for you, and I don't want you to copy this. I just want it to show you as an example. And that goes the same for anything else. Personal growth could mean a million different things for different people. So if you understand and you're on the right track, you can narrow down everything to do with your personal growth and rate it, and it all comes out at the same level, then fine, you can have that one category. But if personal growth for you means that, again, spirituality is brought into the mix, that there is some sort of ongoing education, perhaps, a regular daily practice of something, whether it's meditation or yoga or something along those lines, your personal growth sector might include reading books. Right? So if there's many different aspects of that particular category and you would rate them each differently, then I advise that you actually take the time to spread them around in your wheel of life. And of course, your workbook is downloadable and printable, so you can actually download the entire wheel of life for yourself several times, and you can actually do one that's solely based on career, for example, where all these different 6, in your case, all the 6 different areas are all based on career. The next one could be personal growth, the next one could be health. Whatever you do with this as you would like. Now, as you can see from the colors and the numbers in here, what this person has done is they've gone through and they've numbered 1 through 10, with 1 being closest to the center and 10 being out closest to the outside of that first section here. So I'd like you to do the same thing for all 6 of your sections. Basically, the center point be 0, 1 all the way up through 10. And then for each of your categories, you're going to go through and do exactly what they've done here, and you're going to rate them. How satisfied and fulfilled do you feel in these areas of your life? This is why it's important to separate some of these categories, perhaps, if you find that they are really multi-leveled and you would rate them differently. Okay? So this person here has put their career and their attitude and their personal growth and their spirituality all at 9s. So you could assume that that means that they feel quite satisfied and quite fulfilled in those areas, but they are not at a 10 yet. 10 is ultimately the place where you long to be. So it is quite common for some people to be very close up to 10, but still say that they're not completely satisfied or fulfilled. There's still a little wiggle room there, something that they want to work on in order to take that final step and get them all the way up to that 10. So that is fine. Other areas of this person, like their finance, is rated way down here at a 6. Okay, so something's going on in their financial sector. Then we've got their health is a little bit better at an 8. Their family is at a 7. And the worst off is their social life. This person clearly doesn't feel like they have much, if any, of a social life. Okay? So we're going to do all of this, which on the surface may look like it is negative, because it really points out quite visually and quite easily where we're lacking. And particularly if your wheel of life is showing more around this kind of between 1 and 6 for most of your categories, it can be quite disillusioning to look at and overwhelming even. But that's not the point of us doing it. The point is so that we can look at it and decide, where do we want to start? Now, just because this social life one is at a 2 and is at this person's lowest doesn't mean that that is a top priority for that person and that they want to start there. Their career being at a 9, almost at that level of perfection that would make them feel fulfilled and satisfied, that might be what is all consuming for them and really, really important. And so they might choose to start here. So after you have completed rating yours, you need to decide where it is that you would like to start. So for the last exercise that I would like you to do for this particular video is I would like you to use the table that is in your workbook that is called rating. And we're only going to use the first couple of columns first. So for today, what I want you to do is fill in the area of life. So there's 6 of them to match with your 6. So of course, just print off the table again if you ended up printing off the wheel more than one time, and so you have more than 6 categories. So you've got your area of life, and then next to it, it says, what does a 10 look like, feel like, sound like? So I want you to just put some point form little notes for yourself to really just put yourself in that moment. So if we're talking about your career, for example, what does it look like, feel like, sound like when you are at a 10 in your career? So for sound like, that could be what people are saying all around you. It could be just the hustle and bustle of the office. It could be things that your boss is saying to you, like, what an amazing job. You are a superstar. Oh, I'm so proud that we've got you. And, things like that. It could also be the sounds that you are making towards yourself. So what is the internal dialogue that's happening with yourself now that you are at a 10 with your career? So can you hear yourself praising yourself where you used to perhaps pass judgment? Are you hearing yourself feel very confident and saying to yourself, yes, I've got this. I might not exactly know what I need to do for that, but I know that I can figure it out. I know that I've got the smarts to actually go take initiative, figure out what it is I need to do, and I'm going to nail it. Is that the type of language that you're using for yourself? What does it feel like? Right? So for some people who are at a 9 in their career, that 10 isn't that the career itself changes or any of their job roles or responsibility changes. It's the feeling within. Some people have a real sense of imposter syndrome where they feel like they are in the position, but there are many other better qualified people to be doing that particular job. They may love the job. They may love the people they work with. They might be in their dream career, but the fact that they don't have the confidence to feel like they deserve being there, that's what's keeping them from having the 10. So go back, and instead of trying to think of, what it feels like right now because you're lacking that confidence, go back and think of what the last time it felt like for you to feel so confident, and see if that is resonating with how it's going to feel when your career is at a 10. Right. And of course, what does it look like could be anything visual, right? Are you maybe now in a group of desks and you think that when you're at your 10, you're going to have your own office with a great big sofa in there and a coffee table and your own coffee machine and literally all the things that you would actually see. And of course, that goes for every area of your life. What we'll tackle in the next video is what else we are going to do with this. So the rest of this particular table, so what it's going to give you and the action points that you can take. So until our next video, enjoy, bless. I know it's a lot of work, but you have absolutely no time frame that you are working on here. So you just take as long as you need to work through this. Replay this video as often as you need and use the workbook to help guide you. I will see you for video 3.